I would love to introduce our moderator for this evening. It is the lovely Diana Valls. Diana is a community builder driving the tech ecosystem forward in Phoenix. She is a strategic leader with experience spanning various roles in technology, healthcare, and media sectors. She currently serves as chair of Invest Southwest, which hosts Venture Madness, the largest capital conference in Arizona. She previously led Galvanize Phoenix, a dynamic learning community for technology, bringing industry and education together in urban campuses across the U.S. Prior to Galvanize, Diana launched Groupon in Arizona and led media and healthcare communities. On top of Diana previously leading Galvanize, she was also SIM Leader of the Year in 2019. And with that, Diana, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. I'm glad to be here tonight. And SIM has been a great organization, and I've been happy to be a part of it for the past, I think, 5 years now. We have a great topic this evening, and I want to start us off with introducing Alicia Robson from Infotech Research Group. Infotech has been a tremendous partner with SIM nationally, providing speakers and content from their research. So on behalf of SIM, I want to thank you for your partnership, Alicia, and we look forward to learning more about Infotech. Alicia?
Thank you so much, Diana. Happy to be here just to share a little bit more about how our partnership between Infotech and SIM Arizona can help all of the IT leaders joining us today. And before I begin, I know that we typically have some guests on the call, so I'd like to mention that if you are not already a part of the SIM community, but you think that the member benefits I'm going to go over would be useful within your own organizations, I really want to encourage you to explore membership today just so you can access that as well. So while I give a brief overview of what we do here at Infotech, I've actually dropped a link in the chat here that SIM Arizona members can visit while I present. And I'm going to walk through some of your member benefits that you can access by filling out the form on that partnership page. So Infotech Research Group is the world's fastest growing IT research and advisory company, and we produce research that is both unbiased and highly relevant. We're different from other research groups in that we provide IT leaders with tools to make decisions that systematically improve performance year over year. And that means that we don't stop after we deliver the research. We continue to help you through the decision-making process, all the way on a journey through your projects as well. So here's a little bit of an example on how we do that. So you don't get any white papers for us. We have blueprints instead. And these blueprints provide pre-built documentation that gives you a roadmap for building your IT strategies. These are all formulated based on best practice research, and that results in less capacity taken up, less time to implement and complete, and then more dollars saved in the process as well. And we've even got testimonials on here to back that up. We've also got over 100 research analysts and experts on staff from varying areas of IT, but also representing all different industries as well. And these men and women are not only writing our research, but they are interacting with our members as well. All right. So what I have up in front of you is our IT management and governance framework. It's really a great overview of our methodologies, and these are designed to improve your core IT processes. And your leadership team here at SIM Arizona wanted to be proactive in providing resources for their members in a time where I think we can all agree it is crucial. So once you sign up on that partnership page, you'll actually continue to receive complimentary pieces of research on a rotating basis. These are going to be based on selected on trends and feedback just to meet the needs of your network. Again, just some more examples here, but that's really the first key aspect of the partnership and benefit that you get as a SIM member. And then lastly, we've got diagnostics. So there's several diagnostic programs that we have, but through our partnership, you have access to one of those selected for the SIM community, which is our Business Vision Diagnostic. Don't let the title fool you. If you're not a CIO, don't worry. Any IT leader can implement this, and we are happy to extend the value of the diagnostic to whichever organization that you represent. We know that senior stakeholder management is a critical aspect of running any successful IT department. So our Business Vision Diagnostic is a low effort yet high impact program that provides detailed report cards on your organization's satisfaction with its core IT service. And after you participate in this diagnostic, you can use these insights to understand your key business stakeholders and find out what's important to them and improve your overall satisfaction with them as well. So once you participate in the diagnostic, it's going to punch up some scorecards for you. You're going to get things like the IT satisfaction report card here, and that measures the satisfaction of your key decision makers annually. You're going to get the IT capacity scorecard, which measures the demands on IT by each department. You're going to get various stakeholder satisfaction report cards as well, which measure the satisfaction of each department as well. But why do you need this? Well, after 20 years of working with IT leaders and talking with over 40,000 business leaders, we found that only 16% of the IT executives are actually satisfied with their IT department's performance. And that is a shocking statistic. But most of these leaders, they don't even know where they fall on the spectrum, right? They've never formally measured, and we want to help solve that. But beyond that, we know that departmental alignment, senior stakeholder alignment, it's a frequent struggle, let's be honest. So these scorecards will give you and enable you, I should say, to really show demands on IT from the various departments as well. And you can focus on which departments to focus on first. The diagnostic itself carries a value of about $6,000 that SIM Arizona members have access to now on an annual basis. And with that, I want to thank SIM Arizona for your continued partnership. It's really been a testament to the commitment that you guys have to empower your members with tools and thought-provoking content, not unlike we are all about to experience during this climate change presentation. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Diana to introduce our panelists.
Great. Thank you, Alicia. And make sure you look at the link that she shared in the chat window. Now, I get the honor of introducing two fantastic speakers tonight. I've had the pleasure of getting to know both of our speakers, and I couldn't be more pleased to bring them together for this presentation. Tonight, we'll talk about a topic that companies focus on and that individuals focus on, and we'll talk about the global impact that each one of us can have. And since we are talking about a global topic, it seems appropriate that we have two folks joining us from across the globe. David is coming to us from Canada this evening, and Imuta is coming to us from Tanzania, Africa, where it is, I believe, about 2:30 in the morning his time. So thank you so much. I'm going to start by introducing our two speakers, give a little background on them, and then I'm going to let them tell their story and what exciting work that they're doing. So first off, we have David Glazer from Infotech Research. Now, he's a research lead where he leads emerging trends, IT strategy, and digital transformation. He's previously worked as a foresight strategist at Idea Couture, one of the world's leading innovation consulting firms, and he's honed his analytical capabilities in the government of Canada. One of the things that I found interesting about David, not only did I hear him speak several months back earlier in the year, when he spoke at SIM, which is why we brought him back tonight. But as I looked at a little more research about David, I loved one item that he had on his LinkedIn profile. He referred to himself as a speaker who uses his voice to motivate industry towards a better collective future. And I think that speaks to what we're going to be talking about tonight. Now, joining David is Imuta Jones. Now, I've had the pleasure of working with Imuta. I convinced him to come to Arizona in 2016 and lead the software engineering program at Galvanize Phoenix. He's an amazing educator, an amazing leader, a software engineer, and a founder of a company called Media Breeze. Now, he's going to tell you what he is doing with Media Breeze in terms of gaming and with a focus on socially conscious and exciting mobile games and user experiences. His background includes full stack web development and video game design. He's a passionate leader and educator, and I had the pleasure of working with him. I'm thrilled that he's joining us tonight. I watched his impact when he joined Galvanize Galvanize's mission was transforming lives and bringing underrepresented groups into technology. And he embodies that. He embodies that passion. He loves what he does. He's passionate about his work. He teaches a growth mindset. I can't say enough good things about my experience working with Enmuta. So with that, I am going to talk to David first to tell his story and what he's working on.
What a warm introduction. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Okay, let's get started. So, not that you folks really need to hear this, but on March 24th, 2021, the U.S. National Ice Center confirmed a new iceberg called A75, which broke off of the Larsen F ice shelf. It measures 8 nautical miles on its longest axis and 3 nautical miles on its widest axis, which makes it roughly the size of Central City, Phoenix. But like I said, not that you folks, I don't need to necessarily convince you folks that this is a thing that is happening. We could just follow the money that is being spent on climate-related technologies. Over the past decade, the increase in investment funds into climate-related technologies has been 3,750%. That is more than anything else. That is faster growing than anything else, than AI, than any other individual technology. This is the biggest growth category there is. It's a sector creation level of investment, and it's something that we should definitely be paying attention to. Now, it is already having a positive impact. If we look at the renewables consumption by a region, everyone seems to be using more renewables, which is awesome. And just in case folks are interested, of those, it's mainly wind. That's been the key resource thus far. But there's more on the way. There's also more opportunities for technology leaders to make an impact beyond energy generation. And this is something that I want to speak to you folks a little bit more about today. We like to look at this in terms of 3 C's: carbon capture, carbon avoidance, and carbon reduction. And we're seeing emerging technologies impact these 3 areas in the following ways. And of course, we do have this global goal of net neutral carbon emissions by 2050. The Paris Accord is a 30% global reduction by 2030, which is just around the corner. Let's look at AI. So what is AI doing? AI is speeding up the materials discovery process in search for catalysts that convert carbon dioxide into ethylene, which is something that we can take and use. AI can be used to optimize and forecast electricity use in data centers to plan for renewable energy production needs, also to be more efficient with data center cooling costs. More on that later. And from a carbon reduction standpoint, AI is being used in digital twins to simulate different retrofit scenarios and assess environmental impacts. Let's look at IoT. From an IoT perspective, carbon dioxide sensors and VOC sensors can be connected to the cloud, so we can develop an intelligence as to where emissions are occurring from a geographic standpoint, so we can better track them. Also, sensors deployed in smart grids can sort of help marry local energy demands with the supply of renewable energy from nearby sources. And also, the IoT can help automate the HVAC and lighting systems to avoid energy waste when people are not present in smart buildings and things like that. Finally, 5G. 5G networks can connect carbon sensors across a wide area to measure the effects of capture efforts. 5G reduces operating costs of renewable energy producers, and also 5G base stations can be put into sleep mode when there are no active users, which is one advantage that this technology has over its predecessors, the 4G networks. So from an emerging technology standpoint, there's lots of opportunities for us to accelerate this transition that we need to make. There's always a but though, right? But 70% of organizations say they are not yet able to harness this technology, and they will not be able to do so for a year or more. So we got a gap that we need to close. Compounding that, there is a double-edged sword effect of emerging technology. Let's look at machine learning and the emissions due to the electricity consumption that it causes. This is a round trip from New York to San Francisco, the human life for a year, average American life for a year, U.S. car whole lifetime, including fuel. And so what are these words? This is an advanced form of machine learning, the development of a deep learning algorithm with a function in it that can better understand what the user is requesting the algorithm to do. So basically as advanced as AI gets right now, but you can see greatly, I don't think farly is a word, but greatly surpasses the emissions of all these other things, right? So the question now becomes, okay, should we automate this process? Who are we impacting from a people perspective? Of course. Is it going to impact the bottom line? Is it going to help us grow revenue? And what is the carbon cost of this automated process as well? And how does that impact our carbon bottom line? Of course, there is the the word on the street about Bitcoin. That's gone down due to what Elon Musk said about the energy use of blockchain. Of course, yeah. You're storing the same copy of information across a whole bunch of different devices. You're creating all these duplicates of the same thing. There's a cost to that. There's also the mining. All that's been pulled out of China, and due to the energy costs. And yeah, for Bitcoin on its own, of course, there's more cryptocurrencies. There's more blockchain solutions out there. But Bitcoin itself, that's roughly about the same energy consumption as the Netherlands, just to put things in perspective there. So one thing that we're seeing as a result of all of this, and something that's kind of compounding, is the fact that increasingly a lack of a documented plan to achieve carbon reduction is becoming a growing risk for organizations for a number of reasons. First, investor pressure. BlackRock, which is the world's largest asset manager, it says it will move away from investing in firms that are not aligned with the Paris Agreement. There's also been a compliance tipping point. As of 2021, 9,600 of the world's largest companies take part in proactive environmental disclosure. They make up about 50% of all market share globally. So 50% of the market share is saying that we want to proactively disclose our environmental impact. Okay, that's something. International law. 8 countries have now introduced net zero emissions policies in law. 6 have proposed legislation, and 20 have policy documents on this. And finally, from an employee satisfaction perspective, in 2019, thousands of workers walked out of offices of Amazon, Google, Twitter, and Microsoft to demand their employers do more to reduce emissions. So what do you do about it? Well, there's a couple things that you can do. The first is learn how to sell it. It's what customers expect, it's what employees expect, and it's what is going to increasingly be the thing that helps you stay in business. Look at what happened with Shell. They got a 45% mandated reduction in emissions just the other week. Start with a reporting initiative. At Infotech, we've got clients that have been tasked with building out, not too far from you folks, but tasked with building out a dashboard that tracks what is the difference in carbon utilization because of the work from home transition. So as a company, where's our impact? Has our impact been reduced due to work from home, or has it increased, or how are we tracking that? So this can be like a beachhead into the reporting initiative. From a cloud perspective, we're going to get into this a little bit later, but increasingly cloud providers are moving their data centers to renewable sources. And finally, from an innovation perspective, it's time to set some new goals. We've introduced those already: carbon reduction, carbon avoidance, and carbon capture. Folks, I want to thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I also want to give a little plug here for the folks that are interested. We are hosting a roundtable on IT sustainability on July 15th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard. If you are interested in that, don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to have you. So thank you so much for this opportunity, folks. I would like to now introduce, well, he's already been introduced, but I'd like to pass the baton over to Nmuta, please.
Yes, thank you, David. I appreciate that. And thank you also, Diana and Sim as well. I actually was able to attend a Sim meeting a couple years back when Diana got her award. And I'm very happy to be here. So again, as Diana said, my name is Nmuta Jones. I'm a software engineer and educator. And one of the things, I'm working on a mobile game about climate impact and climate change. And it really specifically deals with how you as an individual can manage your own carbon footprint. And one thing that I am very aware of as an educator and also as a technologist, I'm a programmer and I'm also a digital artist, is one thing that many of us educators think about. And because it's not just the information and the facts, but it's the scale of being able to have a large number of people be aware of those facts and information. So no matter how much information you have, if you can't scale that information, whether it's through media or through other means, then a lot of times it's just a few people who are aware of what those things are. And climate change is definitely one of those things. I've been passionate about this for a while, but there are even some things recently that I was unaware of, just because the climate change and climate impact is one of those things that it's kind of in our face, but it's some of the really big, hairy details are actually pretty much mystery and unknown to a lot of people in the public. So one of my missions through this game that I'm working on right now is to educate people. When people think games, they think, oh yes, my children, but a very large percentage of people who play mobile games are millennials and also Generation X, believe it or not. So we have people, a very large segment of the gaming population are in the 30s, 40s, and even 50s. So we're talking about with a game like this, reaching people as low as maybe 14, 15 years old, but also to people who are up into their 60s. So what we're gonna do is I wanna just show a couple of visuals. It's a 2-minute long, just intro to the game. And then after that, I'm going to talk about some of the themes that tie into what David was just speaking about, but more in terms of what you can do as an individual to reduce your carbon footprint. Basically, right before we play this video, I just will explain what the video game is about is that you play as an endangered species animal. Like you see here, we have an elephant. It's a Sri Lankan elephant who's an endangered species. But in that region that the animal is from, you play with the human who's also from that region. And the animal and the human together work to reduce the carbon footprint of the human. So they team up and the animal realizes this is really a human problem because animals by themselves did not really create this problem. It's something that all of our intelligence, we as humans created. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide, which has the video. And we'll play the 2-minute video and then I'll talk for 3 minutes and then we're
Nilipokuwa mchanga, bibi hunielezea.
When I was a child, my grandmother used to tell me that she had dreams where she could communicate with all living things. In those dreams, she would become an animal and she would fight to save the earth from the hands of greed, destruction, and selfishness. My grandmother passed to the realm of ancestors 20 years ago today. And now, those dreams have started coming to me.
Okay. So there isn't really enough time to show, the full depth of the game, but I want to talk to you about the themes that are in the game, because this is what we're really talking about here today. So what can you do? What can you do to reduce your carbon footprint? The number one thing, believe it or not, and see, I didn't even really know this until I started digging deeper into this a few years ago. The number one thing that any human can do to reduce their carbon footprint is to reduce or eliminate their meat and dairy consumption. So, nobody's ever telling anyone how to eat or what to eat, but there are some things that you can do. And really understanding the facts can lead you to make your own decisions around this. So one thing to know is that livestock and the livestock byproducts create half of all the worldwide greenhouse gas emissions. It's half. And a lot of this comes from, and that's more than cars and transportation put together. So animals, and animals, especially in the big factory farming, industry that we have now, creates half of the carbon, greenhouse gas emissions. So, and part of the problem with the meat industry is the amount of clear cutting in the Amazon it's been a major impact on the climate. Clear cutting for cattle, like McDonald's, for example, and other large companies like that, has been 91% of the Amazon deforestation. And as we know, the rainforests are really what helps keep the planet alive. So, if you can't become a vegetarian, or it's not really feasible for you, there are things you can do, like eating more fish, becoming a pescatarian, or becoming a flexitarian, like, eating a certain amount of steak, a certain amount of red meat per month. So I'm going to have one steak per month, or, one meat meal per week, as opposed to like 5, So there are things that you can do. And like I said, fish and other things is a more viable option. But this is something you can research on your own. I'm just here to display the facts and the data. The other thing, buying clothing that lasts a long time and avoiding polyester. So this is another thing a lot of people really are not aware of. First of all, I don't really like polyester myself, but the issue with polyester and what we call fast fashion is that the clothing sector alone generates 10% of all global carbon emissions. And it's the second biggest industrial polluter after the oil industry. So when you buy clothes that last for a while, like really good quality cotton, good quality wool and things like, well, nobody's wearing wool in Arizona right now, but good things that clothes that last for a long time, and you're not just buying something just to go to one event and then throwing it away. That creates a churn in the fashion industry that actually has a huge climate impact. So just buying clothes that last, and making that investment, it makes a difference. Which leads to the next thing. Part of the problem, one of the reasons why polyester is so problematic in the environment, is that it is plastic, and that it impacts, it releases carbon into the environment. And plastics, single-use plastics, they require a lot of energy to produce. And then also when they're in the environment, they break down, whether it's through incineration or sunlight hitting them, or even them floating in the ocean. That also releases more gases into the atmosphere. So plastics has been a huge issue. Where I'm in Tanzania right now, they actually banned the use of single-use plastics here. So you can't get a plastic bag at the grocery store here. They give you these little sacks that are made out of kind of like a fabric material. The entire country, also Rwanda, and certain parts of Kenya, there are entire countries out here that have banned single-use plastics. So if entire countries in Africa can do it, there are regions in the United States that can do it as well. Transform your personal transportation. Sometimes when you move to a new environment, you move to a new house, sometimes not everybody has complete control over this, but choosing to live relatively close to where you work. Again, it may not be viable for everyone, but when I moved to Arizona, for example, because Diana and I had a chance to work together through the Galvanize ecosystem, where I also met Derek, I looked at where Galvanize was, and I chose to live in a place that was bikeable from Galvanize. And even in Arizona, in the morning, it only gets up to 91 degrees in the morning. I found it was actually very doable to bike into work. So I biked into my job in Phoenix every day for 18 months. Now, I didn't bike home in the afternoon in the summer because I would die. But at least getting into work, I would take my bike, and then I just put my bike on the bus to get back home. And so I reduced my carbon emissions in Phoenix tremendously, because I really wasn't driving at all. I only would drive on the weekends to do family stuff. Switching to green energy, David already talked about that. I think that's self-explanatory. And then Bitcoin, he also talked about that as well. Bitcoin is very, very dirty for the environment. I am a cryptocurrency investor. I have money in cryptocurrency. But after I found out about how dirty Bitcoin was, I started investing in other cryptocurrencies, and you can make good money in other investments if you just take, the time and study. Elon Musk, I think, did the right thing by saying that, listen, we're pausing, Tesla is pausing before they allow Bitcoin to be accepted as currency until Bitcoin can get their act together and find some way to pressure miners and the processes in Bitcoin to become more green. Until then, he's not really pumping up Bitcoin as much. And I think we need to follow suit. I mean, Bitcoin is amazing, but at the same time, it's not sustainable. Like David said, Bitcoin uses the same amount of energy as a country like Sweden or Argentina. And it's not sustainable for the planet. So these are some things that in this list, there's probably at least one thing that you can do, if not more. And also you can, next slide, you can also support my game. That's another small thing that you can do. I'm raising seed capital. I'm pretty much building this game alone with a few other contractors. And when you support us, then you also support our efforts to do education of people through our media. So that's it from me. And I'll turn it back over to Diana.
Great. Thank you, David, and then Muta. Good stuff. And I love hearing the perspective of really big things corporations can do and also smaller things that individuals can do, because that's what tonight is about. So we're going to jump into a few questions, and then we're going to get some audience participation. So audience, get ready. We're going to ask you some poll questions here in about 5 or 10 minutes. So first, David, from an enterprise technology perspective, who is getting it right?
Yeah, so I alluded to this a little bit in my presentation, but one organization to watch for sure is Microsoft. Of course, largest market cap, I believe, in the world. And they have committed to not only becoming carbon neutral, they are committed to becoming carbon negative, which means, and this is pretty outrageous, they are looking to erase all their historical emissions by offsetting more than they create by the year 2050. Now, a shorter term target is they're shifting their data centers to through Azure to 100% renewable power supply by 2025, and they're also providing their customers a sustainability calculator that helps measure the carbon impact of your workloads, and essentially gives you a little dashboard with the thinking there being that you can take that and plug it into a broader organizational dashboard. Hint, hint, probably going to need to do that.
Great. I'm going to jump over to Anmuta. So you've said before that there's a strong link between video games and education. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. The link between video games and education has to do with the same link that you see when you watch movies, when you watch television shows, but especially with video games. One thing that happens in a game is that, unlike TV and unlike a movie, in a game, you are driving the process. So in order to get to the next level in the game, you have to learn something to get to the next level. If you're just watching a movie, you can fall asleep and the movie will keep playing. But in a game, you have to actually do something to make the game to go to the next level. So it actually engages your brain on a way it's much more active. It's a type of active learning. So that's one of the major ways that you see that impact.
So as you've been working on your EarthCipher game, what kind of feedback have people given you? How is this educating people? What impact do you think you can have?
Yeah, so the big impact in the game comes through the choices that you make when you play the game. Because it's not a type of thing where we're beating you over the head with this information. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. It's more that, hey, here's a choice. You can decide that, you have 2 cars. You can decide you're going to drive everywhere that you want to go, or you can get on a bicycle and you can ride one place, or you can walk. There's different things that you can do in terms of installing solar panels on your house. Like there's investments that you can make. So the big impact for the game is really the choices that you have to make in the game, which some of them are very playful. It's a playful game. It's not a boring, like, oh, we're going to have a lecture now. It's more like, hey, what can I do? What can I mess up? Like sometimes you just might want to play and just break everything, and that's fine too. But it's like, well, what will actually break things? What will actually break the climate? What if I really want to wreck the climate? You can do that in a game, which in real life, you don't see the direct impact as much, I mean, I can go and dump, we live close to the ocean here. I could just go dump a whole bunch of oil in the ocean. I may not really see as much of an impact as if I do it in a game like this. I could have all of the fish die in the entire ocean. So, you see it's the feedback you get in the game that it really helps with that process.
Great. So can I jump back to David for one more question, and then we're going to do the audience poll. So David, from an industry perspective, are there examples of climate innovation that you can highlight?
Yeah. So beyond like the baseline technologies that we use to kind of power our businesses, like cloud, like Azure, there's also more the uses of emerging technologies, like I mentioned in the presentation. One example in particular we find really interesting. Now this applies when a region has what we call a cap and trade system. For the folks who are not aware of that, that's when the local authorities essentially have said, okay, we're not emitting past this point. So anyone who emits past this point, they essentially have to buy the right to from somebody else. Okay, so then there's technology that can enable that, and one organization is Farmers Edge. So there are certain no-till farming techniques that help sequester greenhouse gas emissions. And what Farmers Edge does is they offer a digital platform that includes IoT and a data warehouse, and it can turn farm records into digital assets, which are then aggregated and sold to emitters, and they can also be verified by third-party auditors. So there's a sort of a technology platform there that can be given to farmers and actually produces a stream of revenue for them based on the carbon that they are able to sequester. So we think that one's pretty cool.
Cool, great. All right, at this point, the audience gets to play. So Stephanie is going to cue us up with some poll questions. She's giving me the thumbs up. So we're going to ask 2 poll questions, and then we're going to ask our speakers to talk about the responses to those poll questions. So starting us off, first question. And the first question is, how are companies reducing carbon emissions?
Stephanie, I have a question for Enmuta. You mentioned Cardano as an alternative to Bitcoin, but why Cardano?
It was just an example. I put it in my slides. I didn't mention it verbally. But so there are some types of cryptocurrency that don't rely. So Bitcoin relies on the mining. David did a really good example of explaining that. It goes through mining where computers have to solve more and more complex problems. But there's other types of that's what we call proof of work cryptocurrency. But there's also proof of stake cryptocurrency, where it's a different type of way of validating the actual monetary value that you're trading. And so that makes a technology like Cardano literally millions of times greener than Bitcoin. So with some of these types of crypto that are based on a different type of technology, it actually makes it a lot greener. Bitcoin was founded a while ago. Several years ago. It was almost 8-10 years ago. I can't even remember how long Bitcoin's been around. But back then, we weren't having the same climate conversations we're having now. So yeah, that's why it's now time to really rethink that. And there's even some other coins out there that are explicitly green. Like there's a solar coin that's based on solar energy, and there's several other coins out there, all as part of this altcoin ecosystem, and very good investment opportunities as well. Because all you need to make money is the volatility in the coin. So when they go up and down, that's when you can do your trading, and you can make money that way. So yeah.
Cool, thank you.
We're all going to go do our crypto research tonight. Right. Anyone else have any questions that you want to ask David or Enmuta? Go ahead.
I have a question for David.
Please.
For David. One of your slides showed a 37 50% increase in spending.
Yeah.
And so the question is, that's a percentage, but what does that equate to in dollars? I mean, if 20 years ago it was $1 that was spent, then right now we're only spending $37.50. So
right, it's a lot more than that. But I would have to dig to get you that exact answer. I don't have that answer right now. However, there was a previous sort of boom and bust for clean tech that occurred in the 2000s. So we're not starting from zero. We're starting from a number, and it's definitely a large one. But I don't have that actual number. It's just the rate of increase at this stage. But maybe I can follow up with that.
I'm back, and I have the polling questions. So, are we ready?
Excellent. Yes, we are.
So, first one is launching now.
Okay, so everyone participate in the poll. Go ahead and add your answers in there.
I think we are there. So, I'm going to end polling, and I'm going to grab a screenshot really quick, and then I will share it.
Go to the second question, and then we'll look at the results of both questions.
That works. I will do that. And
okay.
Launching now.
So how important is it for your company to reduce greenhouse gas emissions over the next 10 years on a scale of 1 to 5? 5 is highest importance.
This is Vipin. Just a qualifying question. So is this a personal viewpoint of what you want your company to do, or is it what is the organization thinking?
The organization. And welcome, Vipin.
Thank you.
All right. Can you see that all right? I can make it bigger.
Yes, make it bigger.
That's fine.
Oh, okay.
No, right.
Maybe my eyes are
monitor.
worse than everyone else. All right. So I'm going to let Amita and David look at this and give us any feedback that they see.
How's that?
Great. So right off the bat, so we asked the same question to about 165 or so CIOs. And the top answer is the same here: retiring and updating older IT equipment. I think that's something that we were doing already for other reasons, and the fact that newer devices are more energy efficient. That's kind of bonus here. So that's my first reaction is that that's the same number one here. Definitely. The choice of co-location data centers or cloud service vendors that make a commitment to reducing carbon emissions, that was tied for second in our poll. It is clearly second here in yours. I'd like to maybe ask a follow-up here. Does anybody have that as like a vendor evaluation criteria more formally, or has anyone heard of that being a formal vendor evaluation criteria?
I have. Of course, I work for IBM, so we teach people to look for this kind of stuff.
Awesome.
From myself,
go ahead, Amita.
Looking at this, yeah, I mean, for me, it just makes me realize that, when you're dealing with human beings, you always have to make it easy for people to incorporate change. And I think that for the top answer to be retiring, updating older IT equipment, you're going to have to do that anyway as a company, because you need up-to-date tech. So that means for those of us who are in the technology industry, we have to make things easy. If all new tech that's developed needs to be better, needs to be more, needs to be greener. And so when you make it easy for people, and if you give viable choices, and that choice is the cheapest and it's the best and it's the most up-to-date, then it just, they don't even have to think about it. It just automatically happens. Like we was talking about with newer generations of, like 4G versus 5G. I didn't know 5G had a sleep mode until I heard David's presentation. So yeah, sleep mode would help. I mean, if 5G ends up being a good thing, then if you could put it to sleep, yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to help if it's not running constantly all the time like these 4G devices. So yeah, that's just a personal note I'm taking by looking at these stats.
And one other thing I might add here is that this group, more so than the previous group that we surveyed on this, a higher uptick in IoT/smart technologies to cut emissions, and definitely higher, significantly, use of software or AI to manage energy use. So, I mean, I'd love to hear an example. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I'd love to hear an example of someone that is using those technologies, because that's awesome stuff.
Okay, we're going to move to our next audience participation activity. Everyone is going to be put in breakout rooms. So let's do, I think we have a small enough group we can do 2 breakout rooms. So Stephanie, can you randomly place us in breakout rooms? But before you do that, let me tell everyone what they're going to be talking about. So 2 questions in your breakout rooms, and then you need to nominate somebody in your breakout room to talk about those 2 questions. Question 1 is, what is your company or any organization you're involved with doing right now, or what do you think they should be doing? Second question is, what are you or your family or friends doing, or what do you plan on doing to make an impact on climate change? So I will post those 2 in the chat. And
won't be able to see it, because once I split everybody into the breakout room, they won't be able to see it. So if you put it in the chat, everybody, I'll give you like 10 seconds, put it in the chat, and then everybody grab that really quick. Okay, everybody's on mute, so don't forget to take stuff off mute.
So I was in room 2. I'm going to kick this off with room 1. Does room 1 have a speaker that can talk about some of the things that their group shared?
I took notes, so I guess I can talk about it.
Go for it.
All right. Well, we talked mostly about what our families were doing. Talked about some of us have switched to organic foods. We're using electric cars or hybrid technology. Derek owns chickens now and raises his own eggs. Good for you. And then Michael talked about the fact that he added solar to his house a few years ago. And then, we talked quite a bit about solar in the valley and the opportunity for that. And also just raising the thermostat a little bit, low flow shower heads, toilets. You can get new toilets now that use less water, that sort of thing.
Great.
And then on the company side, honestly, we hadn't really got very far into that. I guess we didn't talk too much about that. I talked a little bit about what my company does. We make auto steering products for agriculture. So the whole goal there is to reduce consumption of seed, fertilizer with overspray, things like that. Time in the field means less fuel that you burn, all that kind of stuff. So that's exactly what our products do.
Yeah, we had a few farming conversations in our group too. So someone in group 2, does anyone want to speak on group 2's behalf? We failed in nominating someone.
Yeah.
Okay, I will. So we also ended up talking more about personal things that we're doing and that our families are doing. Several folks chimed in that they are using electric cars. Lots of folks using smart technology, smart thermostats, smart sprinkler systems, smart water heaters. There was another one, I'm missing one. But utilizing technology to adjust their energy consumption. APS has pricing rates that make it give you an incentive between 3 and 8 p.m. So if you're an APS user, like I am, and several folks in our group were, you're adjusting your habits there to keep warm or keep cool, depending on the season. But a lot of utilizing technology. And the one thing that our group talked about also is that if it's an economically viable solution and will save people money, it's an easier decision and it will happen naturally. So people are utilizing some of these tools, yes, because they are focused on the planet, but also because it's saving them money. So the money factor makes it, I think we talked earlier, we need to make it easier for companies. It seems to be the same case for individuals as well. And if anybody else in our group, if I missed anything, anyone else that was in my group, feel free to chime in.
Well, Diana, I think one thing, and forgive me if you mentioned this, but one thing that was discussed was the electric vehicles as well.
Yeah, I said my husband's waiting for a really good electric truck, and the minute they have one that he thinks will be better than his Chevy Silverado is when he'll get one. And I didn't mention, but I also have chickens too. I didn't know you had chickens, Derek, but I have three chickens at home, and I'm happy to eat fresh eggs from our chickens.
That's awesome. It's a small community, but it's a growing community, I think.
Yeah, it is. All right. So where are we at on our agenda? We finished our breakout groups. We're going to wrap up here pretty soon. We're coming close to time. But I want to turn it back to our speakers with their takeaways from this session and any call to action. So I'll have David go first, and then we'll turn it over to Anmuta. And then at the end of that, we'll have Bipin close us out. I believe Bipin is still with us right now. So I'll have him do the closing. Yes, Bipin?
Yes.
There you are. Okay. All right, great. So David, back to you.
Awesome. Well, firstly, I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity today to talk about this stuff. Michael, I'm not sure if you saw, but I dug up that figure, $17 billion in Climate Tech VC in 2020. So that's telling a story, right? This is something that's happening, and that theme of finding opportunities to reduce costs and create a positive impact on the environment. I mentioned that sounds like a priority. Yeah, totally. Well, let's find those and do those, and then hopefully things will snowball. Of course, there's the compliance side of the equation. That's not in our control, but it's something that we are starting to expect. And as a call to action, I mentioned before, we are hosting a roundtable on this to discuss these trends and maybe further discussion. So if you are interested in that, reach out to us and we'll set you up. Thanks so much.
Yes, I really enjoyed being a part of this conversation, and I think that from my perspective, one thing that we just always have to remember is really just talking about things that are important to you is a really big way that things can spread in the community, just in terms of raising awareness. That's what I do as a company, but just on a casual level, not everybody has a chance to be in a meeting like this, but talking about things that you're doing, choices that you're making, things that your company is doing, really does go a long way. And I think that's one thing that we can do to really help socialize the information.
Great, thank you. I also want to point out, Mark put a great link in the chat window about Microsoft's West US 3 data centers here in Arizona are sustainable. So good article to read there. I'll have to take a look at that. Thank you, Mark.
It was just released for customers. Avnet was an early adopter of Azure, so we got to go in a little bit earlier, but other customers can now utilize that and take a look at. It's actually a fully functioning region at this point for Microsoft.
Great. Glad we're doing some good things in Arizona. So with that, I want to thank Anmuta and thank David for their time tonight and their expertise, and Anmuta for getting up in the middle of the night to be on this call. So thank you. And with that, I have enjoyed tonight's discussion. I hope that you picked up some things and you enjoyed the dialogue. And I will turn it over to Bipin to close us out.
All right, thank you, Diana. First of all, thank you for moderating. Wonderful. And as Diana mentioned, thank you, Anmuta. I know it's the middle of the morning or early morning. Really appreciate you waking up, and thank you, David. Really great conversations. And I think one, if not anything, as they always say, there are meetings and then there are takeaways. I think if there is one takeaway, I think I'll underline what Anmuta said. If we can create or enhance the awareness, whatever way we can, sometimes we get back into our soapbox of thinking, it's our organization, that's huge, I don't know how it's going. It's, but in all sense, and I think from that perspective, what I would say is the exercise that we did, not only from an organization, but personally, what he can do, that was pretty awesome. These are things generally, but still, you would want to kind of practice them, take it, as I heard somewhere, that we're practically borrowing the future from our kids. So essentially, it's not ours; it's for them to make. So that's something that we should be doing as leaders. And as a CIO, for me, I've gotten a couple of notes to think about, like when we are outsourcing data centers. Those are some great opportunities for us to make our own. As we are looking at buying a new building, for example, as a senior leadership team, now start thinking about, is it LEED certified, or anywhere you can make those kind of notions or awareness. That's pretty good, awesome. And thank you, Alicia, for the multiple benefits that you've walked us through from an Infotech perspective. I'm pretty sure as leaders we will be able to gain leverage. I've personally, from a Make-A-Wish perspective, as an organization, we've used that. I actually call it the IT periodic chart, the one that you put up there. I favorably call it that, and you use it for many of the conversations that we have had. The business readiness, it's worked very well for us. So anyway, thank you all. Thank you members for joining in. Wonderful conversation. There was a question which was asked of me earlier. One of the members asked me the question about what exactly are we talking about? Climate change, technology, and it's like, this is very relevant, guys. I mean, this is something that's happening very front and center for us. I mean, it's climate change is something that we can't think and leave it as an ESG initiative. All of us need to participate in it. So wonderful conversations. Thank you all again. Great to see you, and have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great session. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye all.